You're watching Pyro Media Network.
I could be running around chasing you, but I won't. Cause I got better things to do. Rather spend my precious time chasing somebody who loves me too. If I got $1 for every time you slam the door, I would be the richest girl alive, life. If you hadn't run away every time I asked you stay, you would sleep right next to me tonight. And you didn't know me, all you wanted was a game to play, and you couldn't handle that I had my ways. About your magics and your side chicks.
Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show.
VICKtorious. VICKtorious.
Well, hello. Happy Friday, Junior. Welcome to the first, very first episode of Dr. VICKtorious. Listen, when I told my producer, I think we need to rename. We gotta switch it up. It's Dr. VICKtorious now. I'm like, wait, we gotta do the song. And we was worried that it was gonna get copywritten and all of that stuff, but I think we're gonna be all right. I'm so glad to have y'all here. This is a dream. Like, I don't even know what else to say about it, but I'm glad to have you here. As you know, I come live every single Thursday, except when I don't feel well or I have something else to do. But for the most part, I'm here to bring you important issues in the Black community from a public health and social justice perspective. Yes. Woo! And look at my new pictures, y'all. I had got my hair did. Look at me. So excited. We have a new format. Everything is new. Theme song, photos. We have a new format, how we're going to do the show. And I'm so excited. So you're going to see this, and I'm seeing it for the first time in real time. Okay? And I'm hyped. So the first thing that first of all, we do have a special guest. We're going to bring her on a little bit later because for me, I was like, wait, I've been thinking about AI. I've been using ChatGPT. Folks I know drive Teslas. Like, we can't ignore it, but like, what is it? And, whoop-de-whoop. And then I met someone that actually does that work for a living and is an expert. And I'm like, perfect. And then it's just so much going on. Let me just get into it because I'm so excited. I don't even know what to do with myself. And that's rare because you know me, the Virgo, we tend to be real low key, but I'm actually super hyped. All right. The first part of the first episode is the stroll. Okay. So I am a social media person. I live on Threads. I live on LinkedIn. I be seeing stuff, y'all. And I be wanting to share with y'all. And sometimes so the stroll is me. You get to see what I see in the stuff that I consume as, content. So I have 3 things that I want to talk to y'all about. First of all, these elections that we just had. Baby, everybody showed up and showed out across the board. Prop 50 passed. Yay. right? Prop 50 said, hello. I saw some exit polls on that and it did really, really well. New York got their new governor, mayor, child. New York got some new stuff going on. And it's really interesting because, for a long time, folks are very anti, right? Muslim, which is crazy. And so to have someone in office that is really sort of different in a lot of ways is really cool and interesting. There's some other races that are things that were happening across the country that I think people weren't expecting, like some mayoral races, first woman. There's a lot of stuff that was happening that was really, really cool around the elections, right? So I think it's a signal that, hey, we need to be doing something different because what we got right now. So I'm really, really proud of folks that showed up and went to the polls and voted and exercised their rights. And remember, people who say, well, my vote doesn't matter. If it didn't matter, why are they working so hard to take that right away? Think about that for a second, okay? So thank you for all y'all that showed up, especially in California and New York, and then other parts of the country. Y'all did y'all thing too. So really, really excited. Next one, SNAP, aka food stamps. Child, how are you cutting off food access? How? Why? How come? Who said? What's the reason? As Cardi B would say, what's the reason? And see, it feels like, I don't know what it feels like. I just feel like the worst thing you can do to somebody is take away the access to their basic needs: food, shelter, clothing, water. Like, why would you do something like that? And then I was just talking to my daughter about it, and I was like, right, the month of Thanksgiving, like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? What's the reason? And I know there was a judge that said, hey, sir, you got to pay out these people their SNAP benefits. You got to give them their benefits. And then I heard that he was like, no. And so I'm not really sure what's happening. As far as I know, people have not received their benefits yet. And it just feels really bad because the majority or a good number of people that access these benefits are children, right? And we all know how important it is to make sure our children have access to food and to other important resources. And so to take food out of children's mouths, to me, just that don't sit well with me at any cost, given my humanity. I'm a person, I'm a human being. And secondly, given my background in public health, right? Like, food is important for growth and whatnot. So I don't like it. All right. The last one is Prop 50. So I kind of talked about it already, but I'm talking about it again. I think we did a big one. A lot of us showed up in a big way for Prop 50. And a lot of people are saying y'all did the Kendrick, y'all came out in force and really made this happen. And if you're not familiar, Prop 50 is kind of in response to what happened in Texas, where they did some redistricting to sort of make their districts be more Republican. And then so California said, okay, well, we're going to put this on the ballot so we can draw our lines to make them more, to try to balance that out. And so we'll see what happens now that has been done. It'd be good to see, to hear what the results are or the outcome is. But that's my stroll. Every week I'm gonna come to y'all with about 3 things, maybe 4, that I've seen over the week. Sometimes it's serious and sometimes maybe a little funny, a little humorous. I've been seeing some interesting things. Oh, right quick, back to the SNAP thing. I forgot to mention this. There was several people, but at least one, I know for sure I saw a lot of black guy. I think he was in Costco with something like a Jesus Loves You sweatshirt on, dancing and rejoicing that the aisles are clear now because people didn't get their SNAP benefits. And I need for our people to not do that. I think he ended up, apologizing. But I need for people to not do that. Like, that's not cool. It's not cool. I've also seen on the news this whole idea of a dog whistle, right? Where people are saying, well, people are using their food stamp benefits to get a weave. Who are you talking to when you say weave? Who are you referring to? right? But when you look at the statistics, the people that are the majority of people on food stamps are not people that you would stereotypically consider to have weaves. So we got to pay attention to the conversations and what people are talking about, because a lot of times it's based on stereotypes and inaccuracies. Okay. And again, I need our brothers, and I know it's not all of y'all, but it was quite a few vocal ones on social media that were actually happy. Like, well, oh, that's what you get. You're going to get your benefits taken away. And I'm like, why would you be happy that a Black woman who probably has your children no longer has access to food? Why would that make you happy? You got to think about these kind of things. So that's what I be seeing on the stroll. If you have stuff that you see that you want me to talk about, send it to me so I can talk about it on the next episode of Nicole D Vick Live. So that's the stroll. We're going to go to commercial. Woo-woo.
Hey, it's Pastor Kim from It's Just Kim Live Show, and you're watching Pyro Media Network. I'm so hyped. I keep looking at this footage. I'm like, did y'all see me talking like I was talking about something? I don't even know what I was saying, but I was looking real like talkative and studious with my glasses on. Like, woo, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about all the changes that we're seeing on the podcast. So excited. All right. Now I have a special guest. Her name is Briana Ford. She is a community strategist. And let me just say this. For some reason, in my brain, when I see this word strategist, I want to say strategist. And I have to force myself. I think because strategic. And I'm like, no, it's strategist. I don't know, chat. She's a community strategist and digital literacy expert with a sharp lens on inclusion, equity, and real world impact. I won't say where she works, just in case she ain't supposed to say where she works, but she leads global community efforts around AI. So this is her profession, translating user insight into product strategy that actually reflects the people it's meant to support. And I think that's really, really cool. So let's bring her on. We're going to talk about how we met and all that stuff. So come on, Briana. Oh my child, today I'm just a dancing machine over here.
I loved it. It's very contagious.
I'm so happy to have you on. Right quick before we get too far, I want to say, just for the benefit, I feel like ever since my friend John Ford passed away, I have been reminded of him just in many different ways. And so when you reached out to me, you were asking me something, we'll talk about specifically why, but when you reached out, I'm like, Ford, I'm like, wait, hold on. There's someone else too that I met, I think a week ago, Felicia Ford. Sometimes when I'm driving, I'll note like a car is in front of me. It's a Ford. I don't know. It's just every time I see his, that name, it just reminds me. I'm like, maybe he's trying to say hello in some kind of way. But anyway, all that to say, I'm glad we met. We met because you had a question about like a policy institute. You're trying to do some things around that, and then we just started talking, and then I figured out where you worked, and I was like, wait a minute.
And I think that was like such a great conversation. It was so organic. And so I really appreciate even just having that chat with you and you being open to it, because I definitely just slid in your DMs very cold.
Well, I'll just say that Ford name definitely helped. I was like, wait, okay, let's see what's going on. So, I'm glad too, and I'm glad that we were able to connect. But and I'm glad that the AI conversation came up because we weren't talking. That's not what
Yeah.
the conversation was. And I'm curious to know from you what led you into technology, AI. Like, how did you get into that realm of work?
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell folks like my stepdad built computers. I had my very first computer at 5 years old. I built my first website at 9. Like I was obsessed. So I've always kind of been into technology. And initially, I started with my career with like digital marketing and advertising. So, of course, like when Facebook got big, Instagram, Twitter at the time, like all of that, a lot of companies understood that they needed it, but they didn't want to do it. So I had the luxury of having a lot of internships around that field. And so I really just started getting started, worked with a lot of different industries and businesses. And one of the things that I started noticing was that AI was kind of going the same way that social media was. So same thing, like just kind of wanted to get on top of it before folks were like, we know that we need it. We don't know what we're doing with it. And so that seems to be the way that I kind of get into stuff now.
That is so cool. And I feel like we have a similar story because my dad, he used to work for an health insurance company, and then I think he had gotten laid off. So he went like to DeVry or something at the time. I don't know. This was years ago. And I remember he started learning how to build computers, and we had a computer in the house. I wasn't 5. I feel like my brother was already born, and he's 5 years younger than me. So I had to at least been maybe 8 or 9. So a little older, but I can remember a desktop computer in our house, a dot matrix and one of the old printers, with the paper with the little thing. So like, I feel like in the same sense, maybe a little bit ahead of everybody else as far as like having computers in the home. And so always kind of been interested and curious about that. So talk to me about, okay, because that led you into tech, and I always do this. Okay, so now as a Black person, what is your experience, a Black woman specifically, what has your experience been navigating the spaces that you're talking about in your professional life? Because I can imagine, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would assume there's not a lot of people that look like you in them spaces. Am I right or wrong?
You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. I think what's nice though is that we tend to gravitate towards each other. And with a lot of companies, we have like employee resource groups. So same thing with the company that I work at. Like that was one of the very first things that I went to look for, like where are the Black folks? And that really does help when we are feeling othered. Now, I have the luxury of having a Black woman manager and a Black woman director. Very, very rare, very, very blessed. But I definitely think that that shapes my experience as well. And I do let people know when they ask, like, how is it? I'm like, everybody's experience is going to be different because their manager definitely matters. So it can be a little different. We navigate a lot of the same stuff in all of corporate America, unfortunately. But I also think it gives us the opportunity to really see like what's going on and be able to give that back to our communities, which is really a passion of mine.
That's amazing. So let's turn the corner and talk specifically about AI. First of all, I think I'll just share sort of my thinking process around it. We can maybe talk about that a little bit and then talk about some of the nuances. So my brother has a Tesla, he bought it recently. What folks have a thought about that? That's his money, that's his business.
Car is a car at this point.
Right. And I got to drive with him. I forgot how it ended up, but I was in Arizona with my daughter, and I guess he drove in and I drove back with him because I flew in and then drove back with him. And he was showing me the car. He's like, look, it could drive by itself. And so we had this really, really good conversation on the whole way back. I'm like, well, listen, we can't be afraid of it. It's here. Okay. Boom. And if we choose to ignore it, we're going to be left behind. That's 2, right? And then I said, wait, because my brain goes all over the place. Maybe I need to be in tech. You might have to help me. Maybe that's my second career. Because I said this. I said, listen, if this car can drive itself, do I need a driver's license? And my brother was like, I was like, do I?
Right.
Right. And then I said, because I also have this other frame of reference because I am currently disabled broke my ankle and I'm still, working through getting recovered. I said, this is also a liberating thing. It offers access to a lot of people. If I had a car like yours, I wouldn't have to wait for somebody to come get me to take me to the doctor. I could have gotten my own car and it could have drove me to my doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
I'm 85, and there's some point in time where they take the keys from grandma because grandma ran over something. We don't have to do that no more.
Yeah.
The car can, grandma about to hit the curb. The car can, what I mean? Self-correct.
Yeah.
Or I'm drunk. Oh, that's all right. We gonna get you home.
We're gonna
safe.
get there.
There's so many things about AI I feel like that are beneficial. I've asked ChatGPT, baby, what color should I paint my bathroom? And it's like, girl, what you want to do? And it's like, boo, 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 boo. And I'm like, wow. I asked it why my friend John is dead. Why is he not here? And it was like, girl, help me sort that out. All that to say, I get it, but I also want to say that we know that because humans are imperfect and biased, that the AI also is biased. And I don't know how much you have delved into this, but can you speak to that? Like the algorithms, the hiring algorithms, the facial recognition, like these biases are showing up, but like, what is being done to address those things?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because that's really another reason why there should be more folks who look like us who are in these industries. For a lot of folks, it's not intentional. I always tell people, like, intention doesn't absolve you of a wrong. You still have issues that come about when you're ignorant to something. So if you're not aware of how your technology is impacting a certain person, that person needs to be in the room. So there's definitely bias because there's just the blind spot there. There's a bias because people are thinking in a very narrow frame of reference. And so that's also one of the reasons why diversity is so important in every aspect, in every job, but definitely in technology, because we do need folks in the room to say, hey, did you guys think about this? Did you test this out? I think especially like when we were seeing these things with facial recognition. For a lot of facial recognition, it either did or did not recognize Black and brown faces. It's so funny. I have a Nest doorbell cam. It recognizes my face for the most part. My sister one time came and took my trash out and it said it was me. It confuses me. And my sister and I, we favor on certain days, like not all the time. But it does the same thing when my mail lady comes. For the most part, depending on what like angle she comes in, it'll say mail lady. But sometimes it'll say it's me. So even with certain things like that, like we know all Black folks don't look alike. So if you don't know that because you're not a Black person, like you don't know, okay, I need to ensure that a nose has to look a certain way, eyebrows have to look a certain way, hairstyles have to look a certain way. So I think when we have people who are in the room who understand these nuances, that can be baked in. When the folks aren't in the room, those things are ignored.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. It really speaks to why we need everybody at the table, specifically folks that look like us, because we can say, wait a minute, hold on. You need to fix that. That's not the way that this needs to work. This needs to work differently, especially when we think about the hiring algorithms. And I know a lot of workplaces are now using, I guess, AI to scan, resumes and stuff. And like, how are some of these decisions being made, and who's setting the thing up to make it do what it does? Like, I don't know. But like, it needs to be a way that's fair, But the funny part about that is thinking specifically about that. I'm like, well, the regular process wasn't fair either, because there was research that said when they had a Black person with no criminal record and similar, so they had a Black person and a white person, same job history, but the white person had a criminal history and the Black one didn't. They still hired the white person. So, and that wasn't AI.
Right. That was just a human.
Right. Or, oh, your name sounds ethnic. That wasn't AI either. So it's like, but I guess the point is that, those kinds of people can make those kinds of blind spots that you're speaking about when they create those types of algorithms. So we have to make sure that folks are in those spaces. And I think that even speaks to why it's so important to get young folks interested in science and technology early. For sure.
Absolutely. I think I think young folks, no matter what generation, get a bad rap. Like a lot of people just assume that they're not paying attention, or they're not at the point where they can be thinking, about existential stuff like that. But they do, like my nephews knew how to work an iPad way younger than I would have anticipated. I'm talking like can unlock it. They knew passcodes. My youngest nephew, he's 7, but since he was like 3, he's been navigating YouTube. I'm talking
Right.
typing stuff in. So it's like we don't give them enough credit, and they are the ones who really have a great vantage point because they're not tainted yet, for lack of a better term. Like they have so much more imagination. Their, spirits are usually a lot higher. Get to them before the spirit breaks down, because then they can kind of imagine some different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So many people feel overwhelmed or even suspicious of AI. I know people in spaces that I navigate that are like, no, we are not using it. No, 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 it's bad. It's terrible. They're stealing your information. What's your advice for folks who want to engage with it, but they're afraid? Like, what would you tell somebody?
I always tell folks, like, there's a healthy distrust. I did a session with a group of public works folks, and in the presentation, I'm like, some people think of AI and they immediately think Terminator. I'm like, there's a certain age group that when you think about it, you think Skynet. Like, it just is what it is, or you think iRobot. Some folks, they hear AI and we think Allen Iverson. Like, there's just different versions depending on, like, where and how you grew up. For the folks who are interested, but they're a little bit nervous, again, I always tell people, like, it's fair. There are a lot of scary things that you hear about it, and that's really the case with everything. I also tell folks, like, try to go at it with something like low risk, low stakes. I've seen some folks who are talking about they throw in like their bank statements and stuff like that. I'm not doing that. Not a fan. So I would do something super low risk. Like when I really started, I wanted it to kind of give me another way that it could write for me. I enjoy writing. I have a lot of posts, and especially in my work as like a community strategist, like I write a lot online. And so there's some days where I don't feel that inspired to write, but I also know that the algorithm favors frequency. So when I first started using it, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to throw a post in there. What's the worst that can happen? Let me see if it can even nail my voice, which, I mean, honestly, it can't. Like I talk in a certain cadence and I talk in a certain tone. I use certain words. It can use that, but it doesn't know when to insert certain things. So it can only go so far. And then there's also things like I started using ChatGPT to help me with cooking. I tell folks I used to keep DoorDash and Uber Eats in business. Like I just did not enjoy cooking, partially because my mom and grandma cooked all the time. I didn't have to. They sent me on my way. I got back on my computer. But now I'm like, okay, I need to, get into cooking. But because I'm starting a little bit later than a lot of my friends, I needed to know, what can I substitute certain things with? I don't have breadcrumbs. Can I use cornstarch? I needed to know it really quick without having to call my mom every time. So
Yep.
do something low risk with it and see how it works. It could either, make you feel better, or you might be more curious, or you could be like, actually, no, I don't want to touch it. And there's no harm, no foul.
Right. And you know what? It's so funny. I used it. So I decided, and this is, news for a lot of people. I was like, okay, for a long time, I've been averse to dieting and all that. And I think I still am. I'm not a diet culture person, but I did realize, I'm like, Nicole, you know what, the COVID trend, the whole time you've kind of, gone up on the scale a little bit. Hold on. So you come on
Everybody.
back. Right? Come on back. I'm like, this is not your typical. So I had asked my doctor for a referral to a nutritionist, and the nutritionist emailed me and was like, yeah, we don't have time for one-on-one consultations, but you can come to our class. I don't need a class. I've lost hundreds of pounds over the years by my, I already know about whatever you're going to tell me. I already know. I need somebody to sit with me, tell me, look, this is what I usually eat. What ways am I messing up? And so when they said that, I said, F that. I went to ChatGPT and I said, these are kinds of things that I'm eating. I just need you to get my protein up and my, help me get my sugars down. And it was like, hey, XYZ gave me, this is how you can tweak what you currently eat. You don't have to do no crazy stuff. And it was so helpful. I've already made a lot of changes. Like for me, bring the rice down, girl. Why you eating all this rice? Come on. Come, measure the rice.
And like that
Yes.
was the biggest thing for me. And it was like, yeah. And I was like, hey, chat, I think I'm putting too much teriyaki sauce on my stir fries. And then it said, you know what? That's how people mess up. They put too much, and it's all the sugar in it. Measure it out. And I'm like, oh, duh. But it helped me. It helped me figure out, like I said, my bathroom paint colors, and it showed me what it would look like. I'm like, oh wow. So you're right. Start with stuff like that. Don't be putting your bank stuff in there. Don't please. And if you are working, I would say this too. Please don't put your job proprietary information
in there.
Don't do that.
Don't do it. That is the quickest way for folks to get their little banker box.
Oh gosh. So when you think about the future, what does a liberated digital world look like to you?
That's a beautiful question. I like how you worded that. I've started having conversations with my friends, and I really feel like digital accessibility and literacy are going to be our new civil rights. And that could be controversial. It could be a little bit much. But when we think about it, even think about just the way that we've gone about it with access with phones and access to the internet. Now everybody has a phone in their wallet, in their, in their purse, in their pocket with their phone. So like they have access to the internet, and it gives you access to so many different opportunities and possibilities, information, education, this, that, and the other. So when I think about it, I also think about the folks who don't have that opportunity. So growing up, like especially being a millennial, I love the fact that we, of course, still had to write stuff with pen and paper, still had to learn cursive, still had to do, stuff in an analog way, but we were also being introduced to technology. We understood that like there were opportunities where folks got to use computers in school and they weren't able to use it at home. So I've always known that I've had that privilege at home because a lot of my peers didn't have computers, or they had like a home, everybody had access to it. I had my personal computer in my room at 8 years old. So I was able to kind of like explore and kind of do all those different things. And I always credit that and my stepdad for getting me to where I am now, because I did get the chance to kind of understand that. So when we're thinking about like liberation, I feel like that comes from information and education, which is readily available at your fingertips. But, like if not everybody has Wi-Fi, you've got a data plan and you run up to a certain point, it's going to get to a point where you don't get the same access as somebody else. Yep. So access, I think, is the biggest thing, but also literacy. Like as we're talking about AI, we have probably all seen pictures and videos that we thought were real and are not. Before, even 2 years ago, Dr. Vick, like you could tell folks had 7 fingers, folks are moving a little bit weird. Like it was like, oh, this is interesting, but we know that it's fake. Now you gotta like stare at that thing like for either 3 minutes or you gotta have it loop a couple times. And this is even coming from somebody who like I know, but even aside from like AI, we really saw it during COVID with just people posting on Facebook and Instagram. During COVID, a lot of misinformation got shared simply because folks were not checking facts. They weren't checking sources. And I'm like, bring back the days when we were doing current events where you had to get a newspaper out and write it out, primary sources, all of that fun stuff. That kind of went away. And so you don't think that your aunt, you don't think that your next door neighbor, you don't think that your former teacher is spreading information that isn't true. But if they didn't check it, they shared it, you automatically think that it's true, and then you share it. It was just a spiral. And so we had a lot of people who got false information, and folks got sick, folks passed away, folks were led down the straight path, So I think that that is a requirement to get to liberation as well, because you have to know what's real and what's not. If you're being led down the wrong path, that's not going to work. But a lot of us have to take some time to really think about, is what I'm seeing correct? Is what I'm seeing, truthful? Is it coming from the right person? Is it biased? Because that's also something that we fall into. Our algorithms kind of tailor it to our taste. And we have to also be a little bit more open-minded and be like, am I just assuming this because I like this person? Everybody could be wrong. So I think those two things are going to be the most important ways that we can get there.
Absolutely. 100% agree, especially with the accessibility conversation. I don't remember where I was, but I saw someone has shown maps on where there's sort of not blind spots, sort of gaps in Wi-Fi coverage. And they were kind of concentrated in lower income areas. And I think, like you said, we kind of assume that everybody has access. And COVID taught me that that's not true. Because everything was go online, and people were like, I don't have a smartphone.
Right.
I need somebody to talk me through it. And then, like you said, this whole thing about what's real and what's not. Oh my gosh, people are posting videos of Mr. Rogers and Tupac shaking hands. I'm like, you stop doing that. Stop. But I also think there's a gap in critical thinking skills.
Oh, absolutely.
Come on now, like what? So, there's a lot that needs to happen for sure. We're getting ready to wrap up. I'm like, this was such a great interview. Is there any way that folks can stay connected to you, or where they can learn more about what you're working on, or even just about AI in general? Do you want to share?
Absolutely. I am very active on LinkedIn. It is my favorite profile of choice. So if you look up Briana Ford, you will see myself in a bright green blazer. So you can't miss me. And I share a lot of information, especially as I'm thinking about like how AI is impacting us on a public level. But also take a look at like the information that you're seeing from your news source of choice, see how they're covering it. But always be mindful if somebody is leaning too positive or too negative. All of the concerns are valid. I know a lot of people are concerned about the environmental impact. A lot of people are concerned about the bias, but also put yourself in a particular situation where you can think about it. And so a lot of it is reading it and then sitting with it. So whatever you read, just sit with it for a minute and really think about what's it bringing up for you. And honestly, trying it out. Like for some folks, like they won't understand the impacts, positive or negative, until they use it. So give it a shot. Again, something low risk. I did the same thing as far as paint. I've got, I took a picture of my laundry room and I was like, what's this going to look like if I put like paint over here and a mural? And I was like, this did a really good job. I got the mural. I ain't put it up yet, but I'm like, I got the picture. So do something very, low stakes like that and just see how it makes you feel.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming and giving us that insight. One thing I'll also say about the misinformation, I heard that like this whole conversation around food stamps I had talked about earlier, that there was all kinds of videos out, what is it called? Sora, one of those that use. And so a lot of like, again, dog whistling. Oh, I got $2,500 in food stamps, and it's a Black woman, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what? And not really, like you said, where did this video come from?
Right.
And it's like, it was made up. It's fake.
Yeah.
If you believe it, right, like you said, if you believe that this is Black people is taking advantage of food stamps, see, and then you run with it, you share it, and you go with that lie.
And it just keeps going from there.
Yep, it's crazy. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go on a commercial break.
What's going on, y'all? It's Kwame Speaks from Kwame Speaks Live, and you're watching Pyro Media Network.
I'm so like, I keep looking at all the, materials and things. I'm like, so amazing. All right, now we are here. This is going to be the final segment called the Doctor's Notes. All right, takeaways from today. Listen, AI, takeaway number one, AI is not going anywhere. Is actually getting better and better because it's getting smarter and smarter, I guess. Like she said, back in the day, you could tell, right? Why this thing got 7 fingers? Now it's like, wait, is this real or is this fake? And even me, I'm pretty savvy. And I'm like, what is this? So AI is here, it's getting better. Also, we also have to be careful with sort of how we use it. So it's okay, just test it out. Don't be putting your personal information in there, but I think it's okay to sort of be mindful. Also, honestly, if you have issues with some of the environmental impacts, I totally get it. Like, you will not ever see me tell somebody to go against their better judgment, because I've also seen news around the fact that in some jurisdictions, right, that happen to be low income or under-resourced, that's where they tend to put these sort of processing centers, and folks are their water is shut off or whatever. So we definitely need to be real aware of that and the impacts those kinds of things have on AI. And then again, I think we also just need to figure out ways to make sure that more of our young people get into science and technology, because they definitely need to be in these spaces. Okay, so AI is here. That's the one takeaway. It ain't going nowhere. It's getting better. We got to have some discernment. That's another thing. And then also, how do we, deal with the environmental impacts? And then lastly, how do we get our kids into this science and technology so that we can help to minimize and eliminate some of the bias that we see in our systems, such as AI. All right, those are the doctor's notes. We're going to close out, head to the end of the segment, or the episode. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. I think this went really well. We're going to get better and better as we move along. As you know, you can follow me on my social media platforms. LinkedIn right now is pretty much the primary place where I am on social media, on LinkedIn. Sometimes I'm on Instagram, mostly Insta stories. I kind of love seeing things and sharing it with folks in my stories. So I'm still there. And those are the two primary ones that I'm on right now. You also know I have a fabulous, beautiful website, www.NicoleDVick.com. Ooh, which reminds me, I probably should buy the thingy for Dr. VICKtorious. Ooh, just a thought. And there are my books. There are my episodes, like when I've been on other people's podcasts, you'll see those there, and a whole host of other things. Because, I also host, I also do, speaking engagements and things. That's my latest book. It's an anthology, Triumph in the Trenches. So super, super cool. But you can get all that on my website. And I think that's it. Thank y'all so much for joining. Y'all let me know how you feel about the new theme song, all the new stuff. I'm like, this is so cool. It's like I moved into a new house. Like, yay, and it's so cute. I'm so excited. All right, y'all. I will see you next week. We're going to have, oh my gosh, I guess I'll say it now because I know who's going to be on. We'll have Miss Tammy Triolo. Oh my gosh, she's coming next week. I love her so much. And I'm sad that I haven't seen her on LinkedIn anymore because they kicked her off. That's a whole nother story. We might talk about that, because that was interesting. But anyway, I'll see y'all next week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.